everyone. Welcome to the first official episode of the Human Reconnect podcast. Thanks for tuning in. With me, I've got my co-hosts, Miss Olivia and Amanda, and they're already laughing at me, so I'm a little nervous now.
First episode. Let's
All
go.
right. So, you guys, tell me why the heck you signed up to do this. All right. Why are you here?
Yeah. Okay. I can go first. I am Olivia. And I think after we had that initial conversation after work that day on Friday, not very unexpected of us, but stayed and talked for hours after work about all the things and all the ideas we have. I sat on it a lot. And I just think this year has been a year of I want to do. I don't want to just say that I want to do all these things or talk about all these things. I want to do them.
So after a year, you're going to stop doing it, right?
Yeah, probably.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
just
that's fair.
it's just 2026.
Just this year you're doing.
It's only for 2026.
Dang, all right. Enjoy while you got her.
Yeah, seriously. So, but 2026 is also a year of authenticity for me. And so I've been thinking a lot about connection because obviously that's kind of what got this conversation started and this podcast started and you bringing this idea to us. So connection for me is vulnerability. I think to put ourselves out there and to connect is to be vulnerable. We have to allow people to see parts of ourselves, to bring them in, to allow them to see, and we can be met with some pretty negative and positive reactions just depending. And so the biggest thing for me in honesty about my hesitation in doing this was potentially the internet scares me. And so what is that going to look like to be on a podcast and put myself out there for more than just you two or just my friends and my family and the people in my inner circle. So the internet has scared me for probably quite a bit. And in my early 20s, I deleted everything, but just naturally with all the wedding planning and stuff I've done, I've had to reconnect through social media. It's a way that we connect in society now. I was not even able to get vendors for my wedding without having an Instagram. That's where they marketed themselves. That's where they were connecting with people through their passion and the service that they provide to the world. So I have been thinking a lot about that. And this is kind of the way connection is going. So many of us are connecting through podcasts and the internet. So allowing myself to be vulnerable and try it out. And then also getting to connect with you all after work. We are in such a routine of we go to work and we go home and we, connect with the people who we live with. So my fiance, and then that's really it outside of maybe the weekend. So to spend a weekday and connect. And I think that's something in my 20s that's been really hard. We had all these natural connections we made throughout our lives: school, college, sports, teams, interests, whatever that was. There was more natural avenues. And I feel as we've gotten older, it really, our connection or areas that it naturally comes have dwindled down. So
it's harder.
It does. It just I think that's been such a lonely part of my 20s is I had all these natural avenues to do it before, whether it was through college or a team. And then you naturally are hanging out with them outside of those things because you build those relationships. And there's just not as many natural ways to build relationships now. So I think that's something I've been thinking about a lot too. So the year of doing and trying new things. So that's kind of why I'm here. Yeah. So I'm excited. Yeah.
All right. Amanda? All right, I'm next. My name is Amanda. We have a lot of conversations for sometimes multiple hours already. And I think those I hold really close to my heart. Just getting to see each other and talk. And I think I love where our brains go. I love getting to know you two and how your brains work and how you think similarly or differently than me. So I think I already knew this was something really important to me. When I think of connection, I actually think about being a big sister. My first community, my first connection is being connected to my sister. And I think going from that, I played volleyball growing up, and that was just a space where I got to feel safe and seen and heard and connected to my peers. And then growing from that, I talk about the farmers market a lot. I think it's that one area in my life where I get to feel a lot of whimsy. And it's not just that. It's not just the whimsy of going. I think it's also the relationships I get to have with the people who grow my food and bake my bread, and seeing their face and knowing their name and hearing their story and connecting that way. I didn't know how meaningful it would be until I started doing it. I think at first I wanted it to be an ethical choice, but then actually it became such a huge piece of connection for me. So I think just combining all that together, being on the internet, it doesn't feel like always like a very safe place. So I also wanted us to be able to step up and be leaders and be a safe place on the internet, talk about whatever we need to, whatever we want to talk about with, I think even like the mundane things have so much deepness to them. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. We're gonna have so many great conversations.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point. There's a humanity behind the things that we do, right?
Yeah.
Clothes that we wear, the makeup that we put on, our hairstylist, right? All those products, everything. At some point, the human is a part of that process.
Behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that connection through that, I think farmer markets are a good place to see that, right?
Yeah.
Kind of firsthand.
I know. Well, you even got me thinking, like, the internet isn't always a safe place, but if there's humanity behind it, it feels a lot different. So being leaders and like,
Yep.
there can be humanity behind the screen or behind
Yeah.
the podcast if like it's used in a safe way and in an appropriate way, a way to connect rather than to bring others down. So
Yeah, I would love this podcast to challenge like our views in the world in general, but also like I know my view on technology. I have more of like a negative bias view
Yeah.
of technology.
that's
And
fair.
like working with kiddos, for example, who maybe were raised in this world versus growing up and being placed in this world, not always having a relationship with technology. I would like to have a different perspective because I think there are going to be beautiful ways we connect with the world this way.
Yeah.
And help connect the world to each other too. I would love to create a community on here.
And I think that kind of feeds into why I'm doing it, right? Is that universality. Okay,
Yeah.
so that core concept of, we're all humans and we all share some principles that bring us together, that we all have something in common. And I think our society really trains us to pick out and to see the differences. And sometimes we let those differences divide us to a point that we forget
We did.
that
That happens.
right? I know that's a foreign concept, but yeah, and I think we need to understand that we can value independence and we can value success,
Yeah.
but we can also remember that at the end of the day, we're more alike than we are different.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we truly, seriously are. And I think I would just really like to use this platform as an opportunity to allow others to experience that, right? To build their own awareness of actually, you know what? Me and Joe, we shop at the same grocery store, but we have so much more in common just beyond groceries,
Yeah.
right? Like we all need food, we all need clothing, we all need basic needs. And I think connection is one of those. Like Amanda was saying, it's a basic need. So
Isn't that
yeah.
the truth? And like the more you put yourself out there, the more you realize how small this world is. Like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, you know that person, or you were there, and I think I was there at the same time. Like
Yes.
we start to learn like how small this world truly can be, even though it feels so big and so
Yes.
separate, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah. And so that kind of brings, I think us to the bigger question is what is connection, right? So we're doing a podcast about this, but how do we even define that? Like what does connection mean? And obviously that's going to look different for each person, but what is that?
Yeah, we talked about this before we got started, but I think connection is like it's a basic need.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a want. I think that it's a need just as food and water and safety and housing and all of those things. And when we see humans don't have connection with each other, we see outcomes like for their health, their physical health, their mental health. So I think it's important to think of it that way, that it is more
Yep.
than just having friends and it is more than that to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It's one of those needs and if it's not met, it's detrimental.
So detrimental.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I think that's why I always have so many questions about like how is connecting over the internet for kids so different than like being able to connect with the people around us, the people that are like tangibly here with us, and like is connection more than just communicating? I think is a big question for me because we can communicate over the internet. Yes. Yeah. For me, it totally is. For me, it is being able to look you in the eyes, being able to shake my head when you're talking to me, being able to affirm those things. And then I will hug and love on anyone who allows me in their space or their bubble. So that's important to me too.
Remind me not to go to your grocery store because if you start hugging and loving on me, I will leave.
I have boundaries. Don't
Okay,
worry.
all right. Let me start the creepy adult guys. Just not gonna start hugging your children.
I put the consent in there. You heard me.
Oh, okay.
But
Sign
yeah.
this waiver real quick.
Yeah, well, you just give me permission. But yeah, I think it's a lot more than just communication. I think that's totally a part of it, maybe even the base of it. But
yeah,
I think there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, it goes beyond that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even think about it like nonverbal communication, right? Like
Yeah.
the things that we say just being connected to someone, right? You guys can read me a lot better than other people can, it's
Yeah.
because we've spent so much time in our space and you've picked up on my nonverbal cues and all that good
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah,
And we don't have to talk about it. Like, that's the cool
Right.
part too. It doesn't have to be spoken aloud in this
Yep.
space.
Yep.
I feel like, Olivia, when you're talking about online stuff, I think I will say this a lot on our podcast, but humans will find a way. So
Yeah.
if we don't have a safe human around us, we'll find a way. And I think that might be happening a lot with kiddos. Like, they go online to try to find someone who sees them, and it can or cannot be detrimental or safe or unsafe. So
Yeah.
I think about that too. Like, and being a
Yeah.
part of something that can be safe is going to be
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And then I think about phone calls, though. Like, that is my saving grace right now. Like,
Yep.
all my favorite humans in the
Yeah.
world live in a different state than me right now. So, like, those phone calls that I'm having once a week, at least once a month, like, that is maintaining those relationships for me. It's allowing me to stay more connected than I ever would have ever
Yeah.
been able to be to those
Yep.
people, and still be with and be part of their experience. Like, I'm not there to the day to day, but I can be a support. I can
Yep.
hear their voice, they can hear mine. So, like, that is a big part of my connection, though, too.
Yeah.
I think for me, the text, like, I just can't get out what I need in a text message, an email.
Why does that not surprise me in the slightest?
Because I talk a lot.
I definitely, and if you ever text me, I feel like you would always be mad sounding.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, yeah, you strike me as someone that would send me a text and put a period and be like, "Oh, she's totally angry at me."
No, 1,000%. And
conveying.
I feel like I come off that way too, or I'm not giving, or I'm like asking questions and people are like, why are you asking me? Like, just answer. Like, it's too much. The mental load. I'm like, I'll just give you a call later.
Yes.
We can talk about it then. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. And, I think for me, connection is kind of that, I think it's just kind of the thread that allows us all to be relatable. And I think social media has increased that in ways that we never thought possible.
Yeah.
Because, I see videos all the time talking about, wow, I've never actually had an original experience, because something obscure like the leg shake muscle that you get when you're in bed. And it's like, oh, actually millions of people do that. And before it was posted on social media, we wouldn't have known that millions of people related to us. So, I think of it as like this thread, and depending on how we sew it, if you will, between us, right? Is it through social media? Is it through one-on-one conversations? Is it in person? And I think there's a lot of different ways to sew those threads of connection, but yeah, it's such an interesting concept, especially when it gets into the social media piece and how it's changed. So what are your thoughts on like how connection has changed? Obviously we have concepts of what it is, but connection years ago was achieved differently than what we have now.
Yeah. I know. I feel like my bias is always like, I feel like it was deeper then, like, because.
Okay, but how? Like,
I know, and
that?
you're so right.
Like what's deeper?
Because I think deep connection for me is being with, and like, and I don't know if this is like too woo or out there, but like there is an energy, there's a presence, there's we have nervous systems and they're connected. We have mirror neurons, right? Like that is part of connection. Is
right.
And people are empathetic. Like you feel for others, and I think there needs to be a level of being with and being grounded in the same.
When you say with, are you
space
talking
and
about
experience.
physically?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes. I think for me, like, and not that I can't have empathy for someone's video.
Yes.
But I can disconnect from that so much quicker than if I'm in a
scroll.
space where I can literally decide to not even listen to what they're saying or finishing it.
Like,
Yeah. Like,
goodbye.
No,
you're irrelevant.
Irrelevant. Like I don't even want that. So yeah, I think the level of being with, and then I think like community, I think that is, I feel like been a big disconnect.
Yeah.
I think religion was a big basis of community. And I think we're seeing a disconnect. People are getting further and further away from that, and not to get into like different beliefs or religions. But I think that was a way that created community. And I just feel like we don't have as many natural outlets. And I think the farmers market is like a beautiful way that maybe you have like started building a community here in Knoxville. Like, so yeah. I think that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think like going further back, community was survival.
Yes.
And now our society is so different. Like we don't need the same things to survive. We not only like leaned on each other for human connection, but also like, okay, if we don't connect, then we will not prepare enough to survive and to get our needs met in that kind of way.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting.
Yeah, like we had to be a team, or we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
So,
if you're not connected, the saber-tooth tiger comes in and kills everybody,
We're
right?
done.
And and species survival, like even at the most primal sense of the
Yeah.
word. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and like you were saying, nowadays it's changed. Like we don't need connection to survive, but I still think it's a need.
Yeah.
And so,
Just
like
different.
how do we find that? Yeah, in the
I
ways that
mean,
we get it.
like, I don't know for you guys, like, did you have a neighbor's house that you could have gone over to when you were a kid?
yeah,
Like your parents were
absolutely.
like, Ellie, be alone, go to XYZ's
Yeah.
like house,
Yep.
go to this neighbor, go to this neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
And you knew who they were.
you knew who they were.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And you could have knocked on their door. And I did knock on their
Yeah.
door. And like, that was safety for my parents,
Yeah.
right? Like, I know
Yep.
my kid can go here, or I know that
Yeah.
if we're out of town and my pipes burst and I'm not home, they can go into the house. They know where the spare
Yeah.
key is under
Yes.
the mat or whatever, right? Like, I
And
can't
you trust
tell,
them.
and you trust them. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're your
That's
neighbors.
That's a huge piece of
I
connection.
can't
is
tell you a
trust.
single one of my neighbors. I can't even tell you what their faces look like. I haven't even seen some of them. Granted, I will say they just moved in like within this month. So
4 weeks?
so 4 weeks, I haven't seen them. I can't tell you what they look like.
Yeah.
Can't tell
We
you
used to
one
play-
thing about them.
Bring cookies over to the neighbor's house and like find ways to connect if it was like over food. But now we do stay really far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've even had that thought, but I'm like, what would they think if I knocked on the
Yeah.
door with cookies?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's such a odd concept now. I remember I took cookies to one of my neighbors, and granted, he was an FBI agent. And
Oh, God. Okay.
So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be nice and neighborly.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
make him these cookies, and they were just snickerdoodle cookies. And next thing I know, like 2 weeks pass, and I noticed him like sitting out on his porch.
Oh, but you didn't
Wow.
even bring them inside.
No, I didn't even bring it inside. But then, but it gets better.
Okay.
He confronts me very respectfully, and
Okay.
he's like, "Did you make these cookies for me and put them on my porch?" I was like, "Yeah, no, that's for me." And he goes, "Oh," he's like, "Good," because I thought it was maybe someone with nefarious intentions. I'm like, first of all, Bob,
Yeah.
it's been years since I've heard the word nefarious, and they're just snickerdoodle cookies. All right, that's all they are. So I'm like, please enjoy, but not now because they're 2 weeks old and it's
Yeah.
rained
Yeah.
since then. But just that concept to him was so foreign.
I
that,
know,
the trust and the disconnect, and I can't even imagine like how isolating a career field like that must be. Where
Yeah.
he was worried about someone dropped poisonous cookies off on my porch, so I'm just
That's
gonna
terrifying.
leave. Yeah,
Yeah, this man is hyper vigilant 24/7.
but also this man saved my dog from running away. You know what I'm saying? So like he once we kind of got a little bit better
You have that
established.
cookie interaction.
Yeah,
The cookie
yes,
game.
yes. He was like, "Hey, I've got your dog," and I'm like, "Okay,
Oh.
great." And he goes, "I took him to the gas station with me. I'll get him back to you whenever I get home." I'm like, "That's fine, totally fine, right? Like I appreciate it."
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that connection has changed and how we show it, and I think it's hard for some people to remember that. It used to be a thing like bake sales. I can't remember the last time I heard. And now this may be different because I'm so far removed from elementary schools. Like they might still happen, but I remember setting up yard sales, and we would sell
the
lemonade,
lemonade
lemonade
once a
stands
month.
and-
And I would get the hot dog stand from my dad's coworker,
God,
and I'd
you
sell
cooked
hot
hot
dogs and lemonade,
Oh,
baby.
boy.
Yes. And that hot dog stand, let me tell you, was a hit. People
Yeah.
were coming
Oh,
from
I
all
bet. I
around for my
believe it.
hot dogs. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see that anymore. But I don't see yard sales as often
No, that's a
anymore, or
great
garage
point.
sales.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that was frequent. Like you saw
Yes.
them all the time. Like spring
Yeah.
cleaning, there was garage sales in
Yes.
every neighborhood you
Well, but
passed
now
by.
you've got like
Mm.
things like Facebook Marketplace, and it's very
know there's
individualized.
replacements.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I gotta meet some stranger one on one, and
Yeah, and then that's another form of connection, right? Like you're putting your trust in someone for a product that you found on Facebook, and it's like, do I trust this person to meet me in a
Yeah.
public space?
It like takes away the fun though, like of going through a yard sale and like finding
Oh, the
treasures. Because I feel like now we have a lot of instant gratification, which I think is probably something we'll talk about at some point in the podcast. Of I want something and I get it, and it's quick, and I can find a way. I can find a way if it's cheaper on Facebook Marketplace versus like I'm gonna go on the hunt.
Yeah,
that
I
takes the
miss.
adventure and the
Yes.
whimsy out of it.
Yes.
And
and instant gratification, I think, is contradictory to connection, because connection is
Oh.
not instant.
No, it's
It's
not.
built,
It's
right?
built.
And it's slow, and unless you're just an extremely trusting person, which I don't know that I would recommend that. because
Yeah.
there are dangers.
But I could find an influencer tonight that I like and scroll through their whole profile and feel connected and like I know their life story now. And that would be that instant.
But that still takes
Yeah, it
time
creates
because even
that.
if each video is 30 seconds, if you're
But it's
watching,
instant in terms of connection.
yeah, that's true. You
I mean,
be able to learn a lot about them.
You and I have known each other 2 years, but really started to connect within these last 8 months because we've been closer to each other. I saw
Right,
you like once a
right.
year at a
Yeah.
conference or
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
Right. But then also to
Intentionality.
continue that build, like you might be able to go in and find an influencer tonight,
but
to
then I'll follow
continue that
her and I'll
process-
see her.
right, and that takes time.
Okay, so not as instant.
Not as
Okay.
instant, right?
Is it a
Right.
false sense of connection?
Yeah,
though?
that's what I was about.
Like a
say.
parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
But what do you think? What do you guys think was like the biggest impact to connection? Was it social media or was it something else?
I think that's what I always fall back on.
It's easy to fall back.
But
It is easy to
You
blame
and
social media.
yeah, but I think too, like something I talk a lot about with one of my best friends who lives in San Diego now is like our parents really didn't have many friends leave our hometown. And if they did, they went a town or two over. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
So
totally.
we would drive an hour to my dad's childhood best friends who are my uncles now, and their kids are my cousins. I'm doing air quotes. You guys can't see me, but doing air quotes of like they're not my real cousins, but they're my dad's best friends. He grew
Yes.
up with them, so they are that for our family. And they all moved out of their hometown, but they moved 40 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. They just went to surrounding towns.
Yes.
And so we could also get to each other easily in a weekend. We could also go to the same beach on the Jersey Shore and we could all meet up there and hang out. And now, one of my best friends lives in San Diego, one lives in Chicago, one lives in Atlanta, one lives in Charleston. Like that is not a town over. That is like I have to take PTO. I've got, and I would do it for those people, but I can't connect with them as frequently as, hey, let's meet halfway for dinner this weekend. You drive 45 minutes, I'll drive 45 minutes. That's so doable.
Yes.
But so I think that's a big piece too.
So
is like,
are you saying like accessibility?
yeah,
Like being
we
able
can
to
pick up and
access these
move.
people?
Yeah.
Yeah, and having access to the ability to move, right?
Yeah.
Whereas before you kind of you did. You grew up in the same space, you kind of stayed in the same space.
Yeah.
Realistically, you weren't able to rent a U-Haul and travel halfway across the country.
No.
Yeah, so just we become more accessible maybe as a society.
Yeah. And I think college, that wasn't pushed as much, at least for my parents, as it was, I think, for my generation.
Yeah.
Like, you will go to college, you're going to get an education. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm starting to see some of a shift a
Yes,
little bit in
I
that.
agree.
Like, people are starting to realize, like, maybe that's not worth it. Maybe I'm passionate about this. So I can go to this trade school or this esthetician school or whatever that is for that human. Like,
Yep.
but I think that's a big piece of it too. Like a lot of us went to colleges in different states, which then we met partners who were from different states. And so that landed us in different areas. That was, I think, a big driving force was going to college.
Yeah.
We all went to a college away from home and a lot of us didn't come back because we connected, I guess, with other humans who are from different areas. I don't know.
Yeah, like the separation away from family, like from our like where we started. Because I know we moved when I was really young, and we moved away from Illinois to Tennessee, away from all of our family. Too.
Yeah,
and,
that
like
extended
the impact
family.
of a human on connection, not being around family, raising little kiddos without like family support.
Gosh, we could do a whole
that'd be a
episode
great
on
episode.
that.
Yeah.
Raising
Yeah.
kids without a community, without the extended
Right,
family. Oh
right.
my gosh, yeah.
Yep. And what does that pass down to their kiddos? Because I think being around family, if they're safe and you could have that kind of relationship with them, is like paramount. But I think that's actually another piece of why we've gone away from connection, is that maybe we don't always have the resources to lean into family for like childcare, raising my kids, balancing work-life balance. I think before one adult could work and the other one could stay at home. That's not how it is now. And I think that's changed connection a lot.
Yeah. I think I'm curious about the piece where it's, we move away from families, we go to colleges outside towns, but part of the reason we move is maybe a draw of connection.
Ooh,
Like
ooh,
towns,
yes.
communities that we feel more connected or that we relate to more than where we grew up. Because think about it. So if we're growing up in these towns and we live our whole lives in these towns, and now this is assuming that you're staying in the I know some people move around their whole childhood, right?
Yeah.
We've got military families, we've got families that travel, like engineering jobs will sometimes make you travel a lot.
So those would be
So-
cool topics too. Like
Yeah,
military family.
absolutely. And so, but if you are growing up in the same location in the same town and you've had those lifelong connections, but then you give that up to go to a college and you make more connections, which connections are stronger and more important to you? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
I can name off probably a good chunk of people that I grew up with that I still dearly love and want to be connected with, but I gave that up to be here with my husband.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That connection at that time was more important. That was a priority.
Yeah.
But is there a point at which that hinders?
I think that's a hard question. I think that's something I've been thinking a lot about because I actually moved away from my community, not because Tennessee was necessarily an area that I felt like I was going to be more connected in.
Right.
It was really the farthest my parents had let me go. And I was just at that,
Right? Like they put a restriction with
yeah,
you.
my
Like,
dad's
listen,
like,
if you're gonna move.
but I was like, I gotta be able to drive to you within a day. So I was like,
But that's so valid,
yeah,
right?
because I need that. I needed that.
Yep.
But I was in such that developmental stage of life where I was rejecting. I wanted to be my own person. I wanted to be independent.
Ah.
I was over this. I'm better. Like I want to get out and I want to become whoever I want to become. And I think that
Did you not do that in your space?
no, because I
Ah.
stayed in the bubble, right? Like, and I was afraid that if I went to Penn State or if I went to Westchester, where everyone or Temple, where everyone was ultimately going to go, I would stay in my bubble. How was I going to get out of it? And I wanted to get out of it. And I think leaving my bubble and being vulnerable and trying to connect with other humans was so important for me. I grew so much as a human. I learned so much. And then I've had a weird shift where like I have such appreciation though for the values that I grew up in and that I was taught. And I didn't at that age, right? Like I do now that I'm in my like later 20s. I have so much pride actually in where I come from.
Yeah. So,
But I didn't at the time. I wanted to know. And then I think it's been an interesting conversation of like, if I ever want to start a family, I need to be by people that can support me. I can't do this by myself.
village.
I need that village. I need my parents as much as like I rejected them at that age and I wanted to be independent, which I think was a great place to be. I feel like this need now to be more connected,
Yes.
which is just interesting,
So
you know?
kind of what I'm hearing is that we need to get a human developmental psychologist on.
Yeah,
because that not the classic trajectory of, you see the separation happening in adolescence and in early adulthood.
Yep.
And then, before you know it, you're like, holy crap, my parents were right.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, actually, where are my parents? I've moved away. Like, I want that connection now. And how do we find that in other ways if we can't go back to our parents?
Yeah.
Classic human development. I'd love to.
I want to be with my aunts and uncles at the beach like I was every year. Like I didn't value those traditions.
Oh, so even the nostalgia.
Yes. And like I value those traditions now. Yeah.
I love the hopefulness of it too. Like I love that perspective of leaving is actually like a beautiful part of that journey. And it brings us back. Like we'll go back to what we need and what's important to us. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I'd be curious to see if our listeners also kind of have that experience of, growing up, leaving, and then realizing, like having that self-reflection of, wow, I value actually a lot of the things that my parents taught me.
Yeah.
Or not even parents, like maybe it's grandparents, maybe it's foster homes, maybe it's adoptive families, just that environment that you grew up with. I'm wondering if many people reflect back if they ever hit a point and they're like, so that's why they did that, or that's why that's important.
I mean, I even miss that Philly culture, like that grit, that because that's a part of who I am, and I've started to love that part. I just didn't. I needed to leave.
You didn't
to
appreciate
realize.
it at the time.
No.
Yeah.
And that's like just being a kid. That is just such a
It is.
thing, right? You're in the moment. You don't see all the pieces, which they shouldn't. I want to like speak to the other side too, because I think also leaving that environment can show you, okay, what kind of parent do I want to be? Maybe there are parts that I don't want to take with me as I move on to my next journey, which is beautiful. And maybe getting out of a situation does help you see, I want to value this part of my parent, and I don't want this other part. I would love to, when I have a kiddo and connect differently, I want this part to change. So I think so there's beauty in
when I needed to leave to appreciate it, and I see people who stayed and they haven't grown in the way that I see the other people around me that did leave have grown. You need other experience. You don't need. I think it can be beneficial to have other experiences and to be curious about other parts of the world and other communities.
So maybe even how different cultures, different towns, different
I'd love
places
that
connect,
more. Yeah.
right? Because you're telling me what I'm hearing is, maybe the way that you find connection because you've gotten away from it, because you've been able to look back like, oh, I do appreciate that now, versus people that stayed, are their connections different than yours?
Ooh.
How they seek that out? Or is it even more so a sense of because they never got outside of those connections? Now they've been in that mentality for so long.
I think that's why I'm like so excited to do interviews on this podcast too, like hear all these different perspectives because you
Yeah.
guys will hear ours, and I think we're all three of us are like in very different in a lot of ways. So I think that'll be such a cool. We can bring all these pieces together, like just to hear other perspectives from all different humans. I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such a difficult question you just posed. Like, because I think even my fiance has not really ever gotten out of Tennessee. I mean, he grew up an hour and a half from where he went to school, went back, has kind of oscillated between the two. But he's got a big community because he stayed in the community.
Yeah.
Where
he's
I
here,
had
he's been
to
here.
pick and choose who I kept up with because they were all so right. I can't call 30 people a week and keep up with their lives.
Yeah.
So I've picked a handful that are my, that I keep up with, but he can have a lot more of those. I don't even want to call that. I believe we have different connections for different purposes. So surface is what comes to mind. I don't even know if that's the right word, but he can have I just go to these guys and I play trivia. They're not who I'm going to call when a crisis comes up in my life, but we have a good time playing trivia with them. You know what I mean? Where I think I have very deep connections, but I'm missing that like that, just like, let's go to trivia or let's just go out to dinner or go on a walk.
Right.
Because my community isn't as big because I haven't stayed long enough, I think.
So even the levels of connection within our communities.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about the value of having surface level connection. Like that's still a benefit because then you do have people that you can just have for funsies almost.
Yeah.
We're going to go, play trivia once a week. And outside of that, I don't care. Right. But there's still a connection to you. They're still getting you engaged and involved in something.
It's filling our cups.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Yeah. But then you're saying, those deeper level of connections, that's where, if you're in a crisis, you can call them. But how do we forge those deeper connections in a world that's so digitized? Because you're talking about how a lot of your friends are across country. Like, obviously, if you have a crisis here, you can't call someone out in San Diego.
No.
Even though that might be your deepest connection.
I had a moment when I had just moved, didn't know anyone, but, he was my boyfriend then, but fiance now, and my car broke down. My dad would have been there in 10 minutes. No questions.
Right.
He would have brought me, I would have been like, all right, bring me a coffee. Let's go get food after. Like, it wouldn't have been this like big life event for me that my car, and this was my first car ever. My car had never broken down. I'd like really never had car problems. And I went to a hot yoga class and I was trying to connect with the community, try to meet people actually is why I joined this freaking hot yoga studio.
All right.
My car broke down. I went to a 5 a.m. class. It is 5:45, 5:50 in the morning. And I'm like, well, what? Like, what do I do? Like, So
that's when you call AAA. That's when you get AAA.
Yeah. So I call my dad. I'm like, what do I do?
You were like, well, my dad's not going to come get me. So I call my dad.
I call my dad and I'm like, what do I do? And then I call Josh and he is at work and he like doesn't look at his phone when he's at work, whatever. So, and it was just this weird moment of like, I got in a tow truck with some random man and he towed my car to the dealership. And then it was like, I also lived in such a small town that they didn't have Ubers. Right. So I know we're all like, oh, we'll just Uber. You can just Uber home, whatever. I was also doing community therapy at the time. So I needed a car to do my job that day. So, I'm just like in all this panic and I had to rely on my fiance's family that I didn't really know that well at the time to come pick me up. And it took him 3 hours to come get me. There was like no sense of urgency. And I think it was just, Courtney's like, that's particular. Yeah.
They live a slower pace down here, I think.
They do. And it wasn't like a personal thing. It was just like, by the time I got in contact with them and by the time they got there and all the things, right? Everything fell into place. But like, it was one of those moments like, I didn't have like a Rolex. Like, you know, I didn't have a bunch of people I could call.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh
Yep.
my God. And if they didn't pick up,
Yep.
what was my option?
Yep.
I guess I was
Scary.
hitchhiking
Yep.
down the, I don't
Right.
know. I don't know what I would have
Oh,
done.
But
Yep.
see, that just brings it right back to accessibility and connection.
Yeah.
Because what if that town had Uber?
Excuse me. I would have just hopped in an Uber.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Accessibility, but connection. But you would have had to use social media, essentially technology.
No,
to get,
no.
to get that.
And that's what we
So
rely
it's-
on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how did we ever get
To this
that-
point,
well, right? And I mean, what did people do when their car broke down in the 70s?
they put their phone up.
Yes, and then they wound up dead somewhere.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But
Yep.
that wasn't as taboo. Like,
Right.
Mhm.
But then you also think about they probably weren't traveling an hour outside of their town for a job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like 1970s, they were probably all within walking distance.
that's true too.
That's something else, like connection in, you know, our communities as far as like accessibility to, because I'm sitting here thinking like my subdivision neighborhood, whatever you want to call it, doesn't have sidewalks.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, if I wanted to go walk to wherever, I'd have to do it on the side of the road, which is fine. But at the same
Not
time,
ideal.
I'm
No.
not ideal. And it makes it harder to access those resources within that neighborhood. You know, like I don't know. It's just curiosity of, you know, what happened in connection? Like how did that change so drastically? And you know, is it social media? I think that's the easy cop out. I think that's what we all want to, oh yeah, it's everything so digital. But honestly, I think it's been, you know,
Oh, it's been
so many factors.
Yeah,
right?
there is. There's so many
Accessibility,
factors.
moving away, transportation,
Mhm.
you know, can we say technology in general? I don't even know if it's that.
There's
you know?
so many pieces.
Yeah, there's so many
Yeah.
pieces.
The phone opened the door for more independence, essentially, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would be scared to drive 10 hours in my car home without a phone. I'm not as
bet.
scared now. I have a phone, I have a GPS.
Yeah. Yep.
I think there was more of a risk too before
Mm-hmm.
to do it alone.
Remember the big maps that like my parents would pull out when we would drive
Oh
far
my
distance. I miss the
gosh.
maps. And then like,
You miss the maps?
well, I don't.
I
My
would
sis-
actually wind up in another country.
My sister was like the map person. I never looked at the map for
Okay,
sure.
yeah.
I stayed very far from that. But it's a cool like what a cool concept. The fact that we didn't have things so easy. Like we had to learn how to read that map. Which road are we on? There's some
Yeah,
pieces there.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Yeah, I remember growing up, my parents would whip out. You know, you're right. It's like a giant map.
just like
And they were like praising with their fingers. I'm sitting there thinking, we are never going to get to, and we we always would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or we'd
but-
print out
yeah.
the directions
Yeah.
before we
Oh,
would
like the
leave.
step
And
by
my mom would be like,
step.
what page was that? Like,
Yes. Yes.
having to like stop at a gas station and be like, hey, do you know like where's the next exit for this? And that was a piece of connection. We had to go to the gas station and talk to each
And you had to
other.
rely on people. You know,
Yeah.
if someone came up and asked me for directions, I think I would get them more lost.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was in
Without Google Maps.
the parking lot the other morning and I'd gotten here early to work and this adorable little old man came up to me and rolled down his window and he's like literally just asking me like it's this, you know how we have all these buildings. It
Yep.
was in this same area and he's just asking me where this building number is. And I work here. I come here and I'm
Right.
like,
I don't know.
sir, and I pull up my GPS and I'm like, sir, it looks like it's down that road.
It's like 3 buildings that way.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
even tell him, like, because I've never even walked that direction. Like,
Yeah.
That's the reality though.
and
That's
he
what
had
we
paper
learned.
directions in his
Oh,
hands. I'll
that
tell
is-
you.
I
Oh,
love that.
beautiful.
Is
Yeah.
I love that.
precious.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it for other people that can actually do that. But I think if someone told me to read a map, I would cry.
Yeah.
Like genuinely.
Oh
it would
my gosh.
it cause an
I'm
existential
so
crisis.
directionally challenged. It's insane.
Yep.
But that makes me think of being connected to your community too. Like you knew your street names. You know what you knew what street name your best friend lived on.
Oh,
You knew your
gosh.
friends' phone numbers.
I don't even
it's-
think I know that.
Yeah,
And I grew up where, well, I guess by the time I was 16, cell phones were definitely common. Like
I had a
Yeah.
GPS the entire time I drove a car.
car, yeah,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did too. So I don't know. I don't know that I do know where my friends.
Yeah, but like my
Streets
parents
were
were like, so and so lived on Maple Street and so lived here. And I'm like, what?
Did your parents talk like that from Philly?
No,
Yeah, yeah,
they
okay.
didn't. They
Exactly.
didn't.
I'm kind of insulted.
That's just how I make fun of people now is using that accent.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Courtney. I'm sorry.
Sorry, all of our Southern fans out there. Millions.
I apologize. I
Yeah.
apologize.
How are you connecting with these people right now?
Through humor.
Oh, okay. But what if they're just insulted?
Through apologies. I can
Mm,
admit
there
when
you
I'm
go.
wrong.
All right.
Yep.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, and it's such a broad concept, and I think we can take it so many different directions. Yeah, and I think all of the things that we've talked about here, just even in this space right now, has been just kind of an example of where we can go with this,
Yeah.
right?
So
There's
many
just so
options.
many options and so many questions. I mean, the questions that we've even proposed in this podcast, like I'm going to be really interested to see what answers we get to those and what feedback we receive from that, and who we get to speak on here and about those topics. And I just think, as far as like future directions go, like where we're wanting to take this, I would love to just really incorporate some guests across the board, right? What does connection look like for humans that are totally opposite than us? Right? Like how do we find these cultures? How do we find these communities? How do we bond? How do we connect? So, I think just the guests that we can have on is going to be really cool. You know, I think Olivia had the great idea of doing challenges, right? You're really going to push us here. So, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I guess my thought on it was connection is vulnerability. And I think the whole time we've been talking, I'm like, I can find ways to reconnect. I can find ways to put myself out there within the community, but there's always the chance of being rejected. So maybe it starts with me introducing myself to my 2 new neighbors that just moved in, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I haven't, well, they haven't put, like, I haven't put myself out there either to say hello, and they just moved in and they're new. And so I think my thought with that is like challenging ourselves to also reconnect with our communities and find a way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is just being vulnerable and allowing ourselves to be like, sometimes it's going to be really awkward and sometimes people won't know how to respond to me in that moment, or maybe I won't get the best response, and I will have so many amazing moments where I get to connect with people and learn more about the community I live in and the people around me. So I think just finding challenges on how we can reconnect with our community. We can kind of put our money where our mouth is. We're talking about connection.
Why would you
Yeah,
make us?
I
do
know
that?
you would live in a little introvert hole
I
all
totally
day.
would.
I know you
totally
would.
This is my connection. I don't need a challenge.
This is enough of a challenge.
Exactly. Yeah. If you guys could see how I'm sweating right now,
I'm just excited to hear how they go, because if it's like awkward or silly, it's gonna make a great story, and also just be like human. Humans
Yeah.
don't. It's not always easy to connect, and I think that that's gonna
Not
be
at
great.
all.
The day that we talked about challenges, it was the weirdest thing. We talked about at the end of work, and I left to go get some groceries, and I had 3, and the challenge we were talking about is like going and just talking to a random stranger and saying hi, and we were just talking about ideas. And I had 3 separate strangers come up to me in that grocery store and like start conversation with me. One was like, "Have you tried these paper towels before?" And I'm like, "Okay, let's go."
How absorbent are these?
Exactly. I mean, that's connection. And the other person was just asking me how my day was, and I was like, "This is the strangest and coolest experience," because we had just talked about this. We're putting ourselves out there. We want to connect more.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the universe is like, "All right, you
There you
can
go.
practice," and I think that would be a great challenge for me. 3 people showed up for me. I want to just show up for someone in the community and just see them, say hi to them, ask them how their day is going, which is going to be hard. I feel like it's intimidating, but that's the point of this, is to push ourselves.
And I think a cool topic would be like, is there spaces that we feel like curate community better than others? Because I feel like there's some spaces that I walk into, and every time, and maybe it's like my own bias of like feeling like I connect every time I walk in there, but I feel like every time I walk in there, I have a great conversation with a stranger or the person that's providing my service. And then there's other, I think, spaces, like if I walked into Walmart or Target, that isn't really a space that's going to curate community as much. Not that we can't have a connection or an experience there, but like that's just your, big department store. You're like walking in, you're getting your stuff, and you're leaving. And so like, I think that would be a cool topic too. Like, what are places we feel
What
like
spaces?
curate? Yeah, like the farmers market, I think naturally
Perfect one.
curates community, right? Like I'm talking to somebody about what they're passionate about, what their product is here or that they brought. I think it like naturally creates some of that too. So I think that would be a cool thing to get curious about, like what areas in the community can people go to connect in?
Yeah. And like, how does environment feed into connection? So that's a great topic, and I'd love to do an episode on that too. What different types of environments foster that connection, and what environments kill it?
Yeah.
Ooh, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
So,
great point
yeah.
too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and I think for me, probably my challenge, one that I've been feeling here lately is, I think nowadays we're all kind of more centered on ourselves and like how can we help ourselves, what do we need, right? We've talked about connection in a sense of why we need it, but I don't want to fail to recognize that you need connection, right? And connection is something that we have to give to receive.
Yeah.
And so I think a challenge for me is going to be just I think prioritizing showing up for others,
Yeah.
right? If I have a wedding shower or a baby shower or whatever that someone has invited me to, I need to show up for them. It
Yeah.
may be uncomfortable. I may not want to, right? But if I show up for them, I'm showing them that I do care about you and that I am connected to you. And this is a way that I can connect with you is by being here for you. And I think as humans, we want others to show up for us, but we very rarely show up for others.
Yeah.
So, and kind of the hypocrisy behind that is, Olivia, if I invite you to my baby shower and you invite me to your wedding shower, you show up to my baby shower, but I don't show up to your wedding shower.
Yeah.
Right. And so I got my cup filled because you came to me, you supported me, you got me a gift. But then I tap out and say, well, I'm not going to do that. Like I'm bored or not bored, but I don't want to go. I don't have the energy. It's too much. It's out of the way. So I do have to challenge myself to show up for others and not be so selfish.
Yeah. So how is cancel culture and people learning more about boundaries? Because I think boundaries have weirdly recently started to get weaponized of like, these are my boundaries. How has that impacted connection? Because you could say to me, well, Olivia, I just had a baby. And like my boundary right now is I'm not going to anything for anyone.
Yeah.
But why is me planning my wedding? And, it's like less important than you just, those are both life events. What's more important? And if I did go to your baby shower, I would bring the invisible string about how we're all always connected. That's the book I give to everybody when I go to a baby shower. So I just thought that was funny that you brought that up because I do believe that we all are connected. But yeah, I think that would be another interesting topic. Like, I think people have started to get very, well, these are my boundaries and I'm not crossing this, or you know what I mean? And like, you just need to understand, but you're so right. Like, okay, I can understand that, but then you need to understand when I don't give it either. And it's a two-way. Like we need,
and that's when disconnection happens.
Yeah. When
When I don't give to you and you don't give to me, we are no longer connected. Right? Because we have that distance becoming between us. I think about my family members and stuff like that. Like, how do I stay connected to them even though I'm no longer in their vicinity?
I know.
And so if they're coming down here to visit me and they're putting in that effort to give me things, to show up in ways that say, hey, we care about you, am I doing that for them? And I think a lot of times we don't, because it's the instant gratification. We want all the things. We want all the connection. We want others to show up for us, but we don't want to show up for them. And that's hard.
Like how many of our listeners have been in relationships where maybe they're the friend or the family member and they've given so much, and like how that feels to be like, okay, do they not see me? Do they not care about me like I care about them? I don't know if that's always the case. I just think that it's just something we can work on as humans is how do I give? We give and like feed each other's cups. How do we show up for each other? I think relationships are a sacrifice, but we don't have to give away parts of ourselves.
Yes.
We don't. It should fill both people's cups to be in connection with each other. So we have some great challenges. I'm excited.
And I feel like you are so good, Amanda, at like nourishing others. Like you want to share the tea that you made or give the new. You're like, I have too much rice. Does anyone want rice? And what a way to like build community though, and like share our resources, which I think we're getting farther and farther away from sharing resources with one
because
another.
I don't need Olivia to give me rice. I've got Amazon. I could order rice on there. I don't even have to leave my house to get rice anymore. Right.
But how good does it feel to be like,
to be seen.
I made this tea and I want you to try it.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Like, and to take the load off of another. Like what a way to connect with someone. I think a lot about how much I say to people in my life, like, let me know if you need anything.
Yes.
What a burden to put on someone when you're struggling and you're in a crisis to reach out and let me know if you need something. You're not going to let me know if you need something.
Exactly.
Get out of here. You know what I mean? But it's a way that fills my cup. I feel better. I've been a good friend. I told you, let me know if you need anything.
Right.
I'll be there. But why don't I just go there? You know, why don't I just
take that extra step? Yeah. And I think, again, that kind of feeds into, you were talking about resource sharing. I think something else that we'd love to do on this podcast is community events.
Yes,
right? Like we're
excited.
Kind of like Olivia said, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
All right. We want to walk the talk. All right. So we've talked a lot about connection. So I think that means that we get out in the community. I'd love to see us, hit up local shelters, hit up local resource places, just, spreading that ability to connect through actually showing up for people. Right. And I'd love to do things on campus. Like we've got several campuses around here that we can go and we can set up and we can get real feedback, from
Yeah.
people and
Yeah.
find out how others are connecting, in a world that connection is all over and nowhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Connect
So-
across the lifespan too. Like,
Mhm. Yep.
let's, go and talk to geriatric, like go to a geriatric home and talk to
Yes,
people
yep.
there and
Yeah.
see how they feel like connect.
Right.
I mean, they would have such a
Yes.
cool
Oh,
perspective
yes,
on
they
how
would.
connection has
Yep.
changed.
And-
Yeah.
And the need for connection doesn't go away just
Nope.
because you get old.
No.
So,
Mhm.
and think about it, it is so ingrained in us from the beginning. As we're born, the first thing we have to have is connection.
Otherwise to survive.
Otherwise, yeah, we don't survive.
Yeah.
Right? If we're not connected to whoever birthed us or whatever, like we
You get all
Yeah.
all of what we need through them.
Mhm.
That's beautiful.
Yep.
I know we've talked about interviewing people, but I also feel like it would be cool to like specifically interview like spaces in our community for resourcing. So if we know like resources in our community,
Yeah.
nonprofits, like mental health resources, things like that, I would love to be able to like interview people specifically in our community because
Yeah.
finding resources is sometimes a privilege. It takes a lot. I know if I didn't have the background I did, I would have had no idea how to find like the therapist that I had or the resources that I've had. So
Yeah.
I'd love
Yeah.
for us to have that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then getting to hopefully connect with viewers and like hear their questions and their
Oh my
thoughts on
goodness.
connections
Yeah.
and their experiences with the connection, the disconnect, the reconnect, whatever it
Yep.
is. Like there's so
Mhm.
many avenues and like getting that universality that you talked about, like that
Yeah.
shared experience, hearing
Yeah.
from others. Yeah.
Yep.
It's going to be really cool.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
Yes,
We
yes.
did it, our first episode.
Yes, yeah, I
Thank
think
you for being here.
we're all excited. Yeah, and then we really appreciate you guys tuning in because this is something that we really want to see, I think, grow and just
Yeah.
take root and something that everyone can engage in, no matter age, gender, location, right? We want just
Yeah.
everyone to feel a part of this human reconnection. And so, I'm excited for our next episode, and we hope that you guys keep listening, keep tuning in, and we appreciate y'all and enjoy
Thanks,
finding that
everyone.
connection.
Keep connecting.
Yeah. Thank
Yep.
you.
As always, please remember, you are someone's human connection and you are never alone. If you're experiencing a mental health crisis or emergency, please call 988-911 or a crisis response unit in your area. Disclaimer: the thoughts, opinions, and topics discussed in this podcast are not intended for mental health treatment, service, or diagnostic purposes. All opinions expressed are solely those of the host, co-host, and guests. Resources mentioned can be found in the written show notes. Thanks again for tuning in to the Human Reconnect podcast.